October 7th, 1913, Ford Motor Company introduces the first moving vehicle assembly line. Their first employee, Lucille Ball, dies after eating several of the cars.
Hello, and welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn, coming to you live with a skeleton inside me. It's...
I'm Zach De La Muertos Powers. It's I guess more like instead of Spooktober, the Dia de los Muertos build up. This is not an especially spooky topic, I guess.
I mean, what's scarier than entrenched capitalism? Bleh.
I mean, a few things, but that's fair. But yeah,
like spiders.
Usually in October we're deep in Spooktober country, but because we've been away for so long, we're kind of just rolling through with our continued topic. So
because
I hope war is scary for you.
Because calendars are hard to read. We're still going to do a couple Shocktober episodes. Don't worry, folks. You're going to get your dose of the goopy gories.
Yeah, maybe one will come out after the day itself, but you got it's a hair of the dog that bit you with Halloween. You need a little spook after the fact just to get your it's like you can get delirium spookums if you cut spookiness all at
once. Yeah, and you have to go to the I'm trying to think of a horror pun on methadone clinic, but really not feeling good about where I was at with that.
The good candy doesn't fail. There's a new revisionist to listen to.
That voice, by the way, belongs to the corpse of Byron Graham. Love it. No notes. Byron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, listeners, if you're new to the show, what we do each episode is we take a topic from history. One person tells the true story of that person, place, or thing, or idea, or product, and another person comes up with...
Yeah.
Did
we do a product? That live show? Did we do a product for that one live show we did? I feel like maybe we did.
Did we? I can't... it's been so long.
It's been like 7 years. This podcast has been going for a fucking long time.
Yeah. We are shells of our former selves at this point.
Yeah. And when we started, we were shells of the selves before that. So it's like Russian nesting selves that we've got going on. And I don't know how many more layers I got left, to be honest with you.
I went back into your back catalog and listened to the Maximilian 1 episode, which had Katie as a guest. And
that's right.
You can just hear the lightness in your voice.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not just us. The world itself has decayed these years.
Yeah. Oh man.
Having a good time. There's no world weariness to be detected.
There's no pandemics. I think maybe Barack Obama was still president for that.
He was for sure. Yeah. I think, for sure. Yeah, we started before Trump.
Oh yeah, that was a season 1 or 2 gem. That was
like 20. That would have been like 2015 or 16.
Long-time listeners might remember the episode where Trump won, and we just kind of sat around and were sad about it.
With Christy Buckley and
Janae Burris. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something.
We were like, let's record the day after Election Day. Surely it will be fine.
I mean, we weren't the only ones in American society to look at November 4th, I think it was, and be like, that's probably going to be a totally good day. and now today we're recording not very long after Kevin McCarthy entered the finding out phase of the fuck around, find out continuum.
So, I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, me neither. Because it's either going to get much worse or be still bad.
It's nice to see McCarthy lose, but it's sad to see Matt Gaetz win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, I believe it was Zach Reinert who posted something along the lines of, uh, is Kevin McCarthy 14 years old because Matt Cates just took him out? Which is, oh man. Listen, broken clocks are still actually filled with Nazi pedophiles. It turns out in Matt Gates' case.
I mean, the enemy of my enemy is still somebody I want to go down super hard and go to prison. So
yeah. Oh man. I don't know if I finished explain. Yes, I explained what we do on the show. Typically, as we alluded to, this would be our spooktacular sort of typically this would be our spooktacular right now, where we talk about ghosts and goblins and wendigos and shit.
yeah. Goblin, I mean, this was going to be the goblin episode. We'd never done goblins. It was scheduled for today. We said we got to bump the goblins.
We had to bump goblins. It was not. Yeah,
we were trying to book them while the WGA strike was still going on, and they were crossing the line, and we were like, we got to bump them.
Yeah,
unfortunately, we can't.
It's also why we had to bump Drew Barrymore for an episode.
Yeah. Thanks for filling in, Byron.
Yeah,
we were so excited when we got Drew.
Thank God I'm no scab, but
oh man. Well, this episode we are talking about Porfirio Diaz, the first proper episode of our Mexican Revolution miniseries, which will then take a 2-episode break to go into Halloween shit. Guys, producing is a fine art that I have elevated into something almost Dadaist in a way. But Byron, you'll be telling the true story.
It's Brian's schedule is like jazz. It's the shows you don't record. It's the spooktaculars you don't.
Well, then we've been on quite a run recently.
Yeah. Listen, our Patreon is full of episodes that haven't even been recorded. If you wanna donate. But Byron, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Jose de la Cruz Porfirio Diaz Mori was born in Oaxaca in 1830, roughly 9 years after the Mexican War of Independence was won, and just one day after the 16 de Septiembre. By the way, I'm going to try to pronounce stuff, and I'm going to fail. And there's no malice in that.
No, of course not.
We really need to just get a clean cut of one of us saying that and put it at the beginning of every single episode we ever do.
Just a clumsy white tongue trying its best.
I mean, it's better when we're talking about like Russians, because like,
who cares?
Yeah, and honestly, if it's Italians, it's active malice.
Okay, fair enough.
Active malice.
And when we cover the Irish with their crazy ass names, we're both Irish. It's fine.
We're all Irish enough, right? Kind of, yeah. He was born in Oaxaca, where I just was a couple months in May. Great food, great times. I highly recommend you visit if you can. He was ethnically Don Porfirio, ethnically mestizo, like most Mexican people. So he's the son of a white Spaniard and partly indigenous mother. And throughout his career, he would appeal to his ancestry to win popular favor among the Mexican population. But there was rumors that he used various salves and powders to whiten his skin. So internalized racism.
Oh man,
I missed the salves and powders when I was doing my research. I love a salve and powder.
It was they mentioned it on the Revolutions podcast.
Yes.
They did a couple episodes about I highly recommend that. Was very helpful.
Love that show. I will say the internalized and externalized racism of former like Spanish colonies is fucking wild. Like I posted this on Instagram for the last one. I'll definitely repost it again, but there's a whole like you could see a whole chart breaking down like in like 4x6 rows of like, here's all the different possible racial combinations we recognize and their different roles in society. It's fucking, yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
Well, yeah, while the casta system wasn't officially in place, its reverberations were still very much going through society and apparently the skin of Don Porfirio.
And I'm sure they have no lasting legacy to this day.
Yeah. No, we solved it. They're good. Mexico, no problems. No.
I mean, Mexico's biggest problem might be us. Not like the three of us, but the U.S. as a whole. We'll see.
He's got a great quote, actually, that kind of gets to that. He says, "Poor Mexico, so far from God, so close to the United States," which is a great burn, but also very sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, as a young man, he was inclined toward the priesthood, but then the invasion of the United States Army for the first Mexican American War was a call to arms for young Diaz, and he joined up and fought in that conflict. Didn't have a as huge of a role there as he would come to have later on in other military conflicts. No official training, by the way, just joined up and decided to fight.
The LAPD method of training.
I think the LAPD method is you watch all three Bad Boys movies.
Yeah.
Like you get a free Blu-ray of them, I believe.
And to be fair, it's all PDs. That's just how they all do it.
They make you watch LA Confidential, and if you think James Cromwell is the good guy, you get a badge and So after the war, after he gets a taste of blood, he abandons the priesthood, goes to law school, and then he falls in with a band of Oaxaca liberals, including a fella you may have heard of by the name of Benito Juarez. In 1854, spurred on by the plan of Ayutla, and by the way, there's a lot of plans and a lot of wars.
So many fucking plans.
So many. There's at least
wars,
3 more.
Rebellions, plans,
Wars, rebellions, conflicts,
schemes. You bet it, there are schemes.
Kerfuffles. They've got it all. Diaz joined another uprising that led to the overthrow of Santa Anna, the general who was a you know who Santa
sort of like a dictator general.
Yeah, it's one of those generals
back.
that becomes a dictator. It's going to be a running theme throughout.
Yeah, you might know Santa Anna from King of the Hill, possibly.
Yeah. The Alamo.
Yeah, he voices Dale Gribble.
Oh, R.I.P.
Yeah.
So after claiming victory, Diaz returns to Oaxaca to serve in local politics. Till he's called to arms once more to fight in the Reform War. Another war where they enact some reforms after victory. It's also known as the 3 Years' War, and the conflict, which lasted from 1857 until 1861. So truth in advertising there, 3 years.
We got to get more creative with these war names, to be honest with you, man.
It's hard to keep. I even have it color coordinated where like each war is in pink. Can
we bring in somebody to do some punch up on these war names? Like,
you guys really got to hire her. I know that the WGA strike was going on, but get a writer to punch up these names. There's too many year wars. You're never gonna. You're never gonna win that battle. So the Reform War was triggered in part by a backlash to liberal reforms to the Constitution that limited executive power, scaled down the ranks and budget of the Mexican army, and codified the separation of the state from the Catholic Church. The liberals won another victory here, but they're
Man, what's that like? What
about liberal victories?
Yeah,
Well, it was scuttled immediately by the invasion of France, so we don't know.
cool,
Neither do they.
Cool.
So this is where the French invasion is where the rubber kind of meets the road for Diaz. This is where he rises to national prominence and becomes something of a folk hero. He personally leads the cavalry charge that breaks the French ranks at the Battle of Puebla, which is now commemorated with Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
I think commemorated is.
Yeah,
I mean, the way it's
like,
celebrated here is
in Mexico. It's commemorated.
Yes.
In America, it's like the day when
maybe
you buy
one of
burritos
every
and get
20
drunk as shit.
Corona drinkers knows.
My Pacifico people, though, that's an educated crew.
I mean, the Dos Equis, they're one Equis short of God.
Of Tres Equis, I guess.
Okay, so he fought the French doggedly. They won several decisive battles after winning the Battle of Puebla, which was an inspirational rallying cry for the rest of the conflict. Let's see. Diaz was captured twice and escaped enemy captivity with Steve McQueen-like finesse. He also resisted a series of exhortations from supporters of the French Emperor Maximilian I to join the imperial cause and betray Juarez. He stayed loyal throughout the conflict. Mm-hmm. He eventually rose to the rank of general and led the conquering march into Mexico City, evolving from a folk hero into a national war hero. He decides to test his new power.
Like a Pokemon. Yeah.
The Pokemon. Yeah, he's the Blastoise.
Yeah, he's the national Blastoise.
But not quite strong enough to defeat the Mewtwo of Benito Juarez.
That's a legendary, man. That's a fucking legendary. What are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
He runs against Diaz in the first election and loses, which he's kind of okay with because Diaz, Juarez is a huge, even bigger national war hero, and even kind of the figurehead of the War of Independence. And besides, the foundational principle of their liberal politics is that each president is going to only serve one term. Mm-hmm. And this is going to prove to be very ironic later on because Diaz was elected first in, 1876, and then he was reelected in 1884, 1888, 1892, 1896, 1900, 1904, and then for the last time in 1910.
Yeah.
A 3-year reign known as the Porfiriato.
Man, it's almost like
giving a section of history after you. That shit was bad. That's not like, oh, good times, the Porfiriato.
Yeah, it's sort of like his presidency were kind of like they followed sort of the Friday the 13th marketing campaign where it's like the final chapter, baby. What's this? Maybe we can get one more. The final Friday?
First administration, it was just Mrs. Voorhees. It didn't even have the...
Yeah, that's true.
And then there was Porfirio Díaz versus Freddy, I think, at the end.
Oh, boy. They really jumped the shark by that point. That was the 1910 election of movies.
And I mean, I gotta say, I don't like a lot of the things Porfirio Díaz does, but I would vote for him over Freddy Kreuger, a dead child molester.
Yeah. Now, Matt Gaetz.
A living child molester. And yes, that might be slander. Prove it in court, Matt Gaetz.
Well, in fairness to Freddy, he's a child murderer. The molestation is implied but never verified.
Okay. Well, I apologize for my mistake, and if I caused any offense to anyone listening, I'll make a
The
donation
Kreuger
to
family.
the Freddy Kreuger Memorial Fund. I'm
I looked
listening and
this
learning.
up. I was looking up Freddy Kreuger literally last night, and that motherfucker.
I was looking up Freddy Kreuger.
That motherfucker, when he got burned alive by the mob in Springvale or whatever it was called, was 26 years old.
Oof.
That is not. Robert Englund looks like fucking 40 in those movies. That's a hard 26.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Wow. Well, the more you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not that old. Freddy Kreuger, kind of younger than us in a lot of ways. He's frozen at 26.
In a lot of ways, chronologically, being in the first way.
One of the most important ones, really.
Yeah.
I mean, also, yeah, he has a bit of a lawn, like a flair that I feel like I've lost.
Yeah, he's still doing comedy.
And he's got some takes, let me tell you. Sorry, now I'm just picturing like the next Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. As the series goes on, he becomes more of a Don Rickles-like figure.
Yeah. I'm just picturing like the next Nightmare on Elm Street movie just being like Freddy Krueger's face with duct tape over his mouth, and it's just called like Triggered or Canceled or something. That some fucking
he's
Shane
been on
Gillis type.
He's he's
Rogan would absolutely have Freddy Kreuger on multiple times. Oh man!
Like, you got these supplements that'll make you never sleep again. Like,
gold never loses value, bitch.
So while he was loyal to Juarez during the French conflict, Diaz was highly critical of Juarez's decision to seek a second presidential term. He was a one-term guy. Let's remember that. Mm-hmm. So he runs against him and loses again. He loses to Juarez, and Juarez's vice president Sebastián Lerdo de Tejada, who assumes the presidency when Juarez dies in 1871. Diaz makes accusations of electoral fraud, formulates the Plan de la Noria, and after leading a brief armed rebellion, he faces defeat at the 1872 Battle of La Bufa, and Lerdo goes on to serve out the rest of his term, and then, earning the consternation of Diaz yet again, decides to run for a second term. And if we know one thing about Diaz, he does not fuck with second terms.
No.
But he does kindly kind of give Diaz a pardon for like his little rebellion in there. He's kind of like, bygones are bygones.
Yeah, but during his rebellion, he's just like, just go back to Oaxaca for a little while. And Diaz does that, but he also goes north to the United States to solicit support for any future rebellions he might like to enact. And so he goes
Wait. The United States would support a rebellion in Latin America against an elected government?
Only if it's in their economic interest. And
all right.
Make it worth their while.
You know, you're making it sound like tired and played out, but you got to remember this was one of the original supporting an overthrow of a democratically elected Latin American government. Like, they were just getting into it. This was before it was played out.
This was before the School of the Americas was a twinkle in anyone's eye.
Yeah.
So he goes to New York, New Orleans, and Brownsville, Texas, and creates relationships with American industrialists and financiers who see the opportunity to plunder Mexico for its labor and natural resources and sign up. And they support his rebellion against, or his campaign against Lerdo's second term. And he overthrows Lerdo. Wait. There's another plan. Sorry.
Yeah,
He forms the plan of Tuxtepec, and then the denouncements insufficient to prevent his reelection, but he claims a decisive victory over Lerdo at the Battle of Tecoac, once again occupying Mexico City and sending Lerdo into exile. In an attempt to remain, so he serves his first term, and all of those American supporters get their beaks wet. They get concession, like railroad barons get concessions to build. They get exclusive contracts. The first railroads that go up they connect American cities to Mexican cities, and somehow they drag their foot on the cross-country connections between intra-Mexico connections. They set up the telegraph lines. They set up the first Banamex, the first national bank of Mexico. It's a huge period of modernization that completely changes both the landscape politically and literally of Mexico. It's I think something like 20,000 miles of railroad track are laid down during these first years of the administration.
It's an economic boom, pretty much. Period.
It's an economic boom. Yet all of the money is flowing towards the upper echelon of government, and people are getting screwed. But so far, he's not really suffering any consequences from it. People still like Don Porfirio. And in an attempt after in 1880, after serving for 4 years, he decides not to run for re-election. He's not going to be a hypocrite yet. And in a pretty staged, managed election, he is handpicked successor, General Juan I think it's just Juan Menendez. Brian, feel free to correct me. My handwriting's terrible. He becomes the interim president and amends the Constitution to prevent any president from serving for more than one term for now. So, sorry, after Lerdo, he appoints an interim president, and then after Juan Mendez's term is over, he wins the 1877 election on a landslide, and the Porfiriato begins in earnest. Once in power, he's much more pragmatic than ideological. Aside from all the business concessions that he made, he makes peace with the church and continues scaling back the military to get rid of any potential opponents.
Yeah, and this is like he backslides on like being against the church and being for term limits. Like all of these were like huge ideological planks.
He really he makes a bunch of politically convenient compromises that kind of undermine whether did he ever have convictions in these liberal beliefs, or was that just kind of part of the scene that he was part, that he came from? Because it does not events itself in the governance during the Porfiriato. It is essentially he turns Mexico into a cash machine for Americans and Europeans.
Anyway, let's get back to talking about Joseph R. Biden.
He also kills a lot of people. There's some tribal uprising in Sonora that he puts down violently. There's an unofficial policy called pan o palo, which is bread or the stick, where it's like if you play along with him, like the church or his former conservative rivals, he'll let you basically do whatever you want. He doesn't care what you believe or who you exploit. You can go ahead and get paid. You just gotta be loyal to him. And if you give him any guff, you get that palo. I don't know. That didn't sound right coming out of my mouth. The Orden y Progreso was the order of the day, which order and progress. So, but order essentially meant keeping the class and caste hierarchies in place, and progress essentially meant enriching the ruling class and foreign investors through these modernization efforts. in addition to securing the border areas on the southern banks of the Rio Grande, Diaz paid off all national debts remaining from the aftermath of the Mexican-American War. And despite some misgivings from the Rutherford B. Hayes administration, these inroads with American businessmen seceded, and the Diaz regime was officially recognized by the U.S. in 1878. And this isn't like Diaz isn't some sort of cock, you know. These are all very pragmatic decisions. Like this, he knows what he's doing. He's not getting swindled by he's part of him fully believes that there will be a trickle down effect. And I think that the project of connecting Mexico was just too big for them to take on their own. But
I don't know. I feel like
go ahead.
Sorry. I feel like there's sometimes like a dumbing down of like anyone from a country in the global south, especially, where like when people are talking about the US capitalist interests taking advantage of their concessions, it's not like they're just tricking them. Like they're also getting, those leaders are like, and the ruling class in those countries are getting something out of it too.
And the leaders during the Porfiriato became very rich. Particularly his direct successor. I'll get to that later. But a lot of these, he avoided backlash for a lot of this stuff. This was another element of his political savvy, is that after his first term, he appointed a successor. And during this interregnum, a lot of the banking and railroad stuff really started happening in earnest, and people started seeing the consequences of it, and his successor suffered the backlash rather than Diaz himself. So he swept back into office after the shit kind of hit the fan. I think I said these businesses are all basically monopolies, by the way. I think I've said that. It's said of Diaz at the time that he is the mother of foreigners, but only the stepmother of Mexicans. So
man, someone was watching Pornhub, I guess.
I was gonna say he's not the one getting fucked. They are.
Okay.
Mining too. Mining is another if you want, just to make the pillaging of the resources insanely literal. He changes the laws to allow foreign investors to directly own Mexican land and the minerals extracted from it. So he removes the need for Mexican middlemen or shell companies. So really, even the pretense of enriching of some local enrichment just goes out the window. There is it says over and over again that it can't be overstated how much he's exploiting Mexican labor resources and the working class for the benefit of foreign investors and government functionaries. Okay, Manuel Gonzalez, that's his successor. Historically, he's thought of as kind of like an appointed puppet of the Porfiriato, but I don't think that Diaz really needed to put his thumbs on the scale that much, because they were pretty much in agreement on everything. The one element that sets them apart is that Gonzalez did suffer backlash for his corruption.
If Porfirio Diaz offers to make you his successor at anything, don't fucking take it. You are being set up to fail.
So during the Gonzalez interregnum, Diaz returns to Oaxaca to serve as the governor and to get married at age 50 to the 17-year-old Carmen Romero Rubio, the 33-year age difference. The daughter of a one-time rival.
Oh, well,
that's
I don't know the story behind this, but that detail makes it seem like there's some spite in this marriage where he's like, oh, you want to oppose me for Juarez? Huh? Well, I'm fucking your daughter. Corruption in the Gonzalez regime was beginning to inspire popular opposition that threatened to derail the whole modernization project. So Don Porfirio reneges on his liberal commitment to a single-term presidency and runs again, winning the 1884 election in a landslide and tightening his grip over power even tighter. His new motto is, we want a little of politics and plenty of administration. The period that of relative stability that follows is called the Paz Porfiriana. Just to add another thorn to this complicated briar patch of economic interests, the most of the railroads are mostly American. The mining interests are mostly British, and Banamex is French. It's all French money bankrolling all of these projects. So 3 of their former colonizers are basically just running shit on his watch. Meanwhile, people don't have enough to eat. These 3 colonizers enriching themselves at Mexico's expense.
You got to imagine, Spain. Part of that on their part had to have been to spite Spain a little bit, just to be like, I'm fucking your daughter, sort of.
Yes. Like nothing for us. So after winning re-election this time, Don Porfirio changes the constitution and allowing him to run again. And each time he is up for re-election, he's like, you know what? Let's change let's make the presidency 6 years long now. Let's make it okay for me to run again. And he faces very little resistance, remains in office for the next 26 years. Term limits become a thing of the past at every level of politics. I already mentioned the military. Diaz throws his lot in with the científicos. I don't know if you're going to get into these guys later.
No, not too much. So we can talk about them now a little more.
They kind of sound like elitist assholes. They're essentially like centrists now.
Yeah. They're also very technocratic, sort of, in a way.
Yeah. They think that the democratic order is unscientific somehow. So, of course, Diaz is like, these are my guys. They're led by Jose Yves Limantour, who becomes the Treasury Secretary during the Porfiriato. And he's the one who helped balance the budget by paying off one of the reasons Mexico didn't have enough money to build all this infrastructure themselves is because their colonizers are like, hey, you're in debt to us. You just made that up. You got to pay us. So, they're like $300,000 to the U.S. government, even more to the British government. Just
millions and millions and millions of dollars and 19th century money in debt to foreign powers. Based on nothing.
Would have made a big difference just like a piece of paper that a white guy held up.
Like all debt, really, but that's another episode.
So he balances the budget and courts European investors, but pisses everybody off. Nobody likes Limantour. There is a very good cocktail bar in Oaxaca named after Limantour for some reason. I don't know why.
What?
They have weird names for the rest. Like there's a restaurant called Criollo, which isn't that that's like in the caste system above Mestizo, right?
Yeah, Criollo were fully white but born in the Americas.
I don't know if the name is like a troll against me, the diner.
Oh, let's go to Crayola, the restaurant. Yeah.
Oh, one of the interesting tidbit, he met Howard Taft or William Howard, at the historical presidential summit. Taft was the first president to cross over the Mexican border to meet a head of state. And they met in Juarez City, where there was a thwarted assassination attempt.
On Diaz or on Taft?
I believe on Diaz. It was unclear.
Okay. Someone's trying to grab a twofer, maybe even.
And then I do yada 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 past some stuff here because it's just such a.
There's so much.
Yeah, there's so much. But towards the end of his presidency, he gives interview. It's called the Creelman Interview. I forget the name of the publication, but he basically like admits the whole game to a journalist. He's like, Mexican people are dumb. They need a strong hand to run shit, and everybody hates
it was
that.
Vice. Yeah,
it was Vice. He gave an interview to Shane Smith. It's a deep cut for all you Vice heads out there. Canadian fuck. So in the
it looks like the assassination attempt was on both of them.
On both.
I wanted to kill both of them.
I mean, killed two presidents with one bullet.
Yeah, and he got pretty close to them.
You probably would have needed more than one to pierce the rib cage on Taft.
You got to put Taft in the back.
Yeah. You got to aim for the mustache on old Tafty.
Yeah.
That's the like glowing eye in Zelda. You have to hit it.
If you got the one bullet and you want it to go through, Diaz in front, less space to travel, then Taft in back. It can stop in the middle of Taft, no problem. Job's done. But you got to get
sort of a symbol of the growing backlash against Diaz at the time. I think that was in 1909. In 1910, he's running for re-election for the final time, and he sees that his opponent, Francisco Madero, is gaining popularity, so he just has him jailed, as one does when you don't like your opponent. And then he wins re-election on a landslide, but allegations of fraud follow him and lead to the plan of San Luis Potosi, our final plan here. And the violence surrounding this transfer of power is considered the opening salvo of the Mexican Revolution. Diaz abdicates from office in 1911 and lives out the rest of his life in exile in Spain. And that's what I have for now. Is there anything you want to add for context, or?
Well, just one thing, because I think it's a very fun miscalculation on his part. Because like he is getting sort of increasingly like paranoid of his vice president as he gets older, because like a lot of people are like thinking like, oh, maybe he'll die in office and then we'll have a new president. And so he gets in sort of a habit in his last couple terms of trying to pick like someone very unpopular and disliked to be his vice president. Just thinking like, Harris. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'd be almost like if Joe Biden picked Amy Klobuchar or who I guess people didn't dislike Hickenlooper. He was a non-entity. Anyway, the 2020 Democratic field was full of winners.
Thumbs down.
But I forget who he picks to be his running mate. But it hugely backfires. It's just like, I'm going to pick the person everyone hates, and then no one will have reason to throw me out of office because this guy will then be in charge. And people are just like, you are 1,000,000 years old at this point, and we don't want fucking the equivalent of like Beto basically coming in and just skateboarding around this place and just saying fuck like it's a political platform.
Oh no, man, this really does have a lot of echoes for today.
Oh man, yeah,
all the electoral fraud, all the instability.
Well, except this seems like it was actual existing electoral fraud.
Well, you know,
Oh no, this
Mexico,
was in this case it was real, but
yes.
Mexico's down there looking at us like, now it's your turn, motherfucker.
Byron, thank you.
Ready for the Trumpiato, bitches.
Oh no. Oh no.
Wish I didn't say it.
Ugh. There is someone on X or something photoshopping that like right now, and I just want to say to you, please stop. You could do you have one short life on this earth, and you don't need to be simping for a couple of idiots.
Yeah, and you just don't need to be on X. It's go leave it. It's past time.
I won't even log in to delete my account. That's how I can't be bothered.
Oh man. But Zach, you are handling the alternate history.
Yeah. So a lot of what Byron said was in fact correct. Just a few little bits and bobs along the way that got left out of the story.
Wikipedia, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'll just fill in the gaps. Like cock. I'm the cock of this podcast. Fill in the gaps.
That's what we always say.
Yeah. So Porfirio was born to a father who worked in mining. Sort of a humble profession. It's, it doesn't offer a ton in the way of advancement for young, sort of impoverished children. But shortly,
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing like a career-minded child going into the mines.
You need to get a leg up in this world.
You can advance into black lung.
Sure.
I'm doing LinkedIn learning.
But he got a lucky break. Shortly after Porfirio was born, there was lucky break because his father was shot to global prominence when he was selected for a special program in which miners were trained to become astronauts in order to destroy an asteroid that was heading to Earth. Unfortunately, his father had to stay behind to ensure the detonation went as planned. After, if I recall correctly, Steve Buscemi did something cowardly or something like that. And that part of history is very vague. The records.
That's Con Air.
Yeah, I thought Buscemi was a hero.
Somebody does something wrong, and his father had to stay behind. Like, this part of history is very vague. The records have not been seen for like 20 years. But the records are apparently streaming on something called Sling. So if you want to see the records, you can. But as far as I know, they haven't been seen for 20 years. Anyways, Porfirio had a largely normal childhood after that. In his teenage years, though, he got a lot of training. He learned a lot about combat and leadership in another sort of bizarre incident in which the first car he bought turned out to be like some kind of alien fighting robot. And it, along with his robot friends, taught him how to lead and fight. And they had to fight off other robots, and they had to pee on John Turturro.
That's so weird. It's so. Also, I wish that movie was called Robot Friends.
And he also met his wife. Let's say at that time, sure, why not? She was fixing her car in an exaggerated, sexy way. I also think this happened
holding the wrench with her vulva. What?
Yeah, something like that.
Why would I say that?
I think this happened like 5 or 6 more times, but again, the records are vague because the first record wasn't very good. Apparently, the other records got even worse Rotten Tomatoes scores, so I'm not familiar with the other records.
You say Rotten Tomatoes?
But yeah, sure. It's a different thing.
That's
the film review site run by Mater from Cars.
Yeah, it's better. It's got less bias.
That's when they review Hillbilly Elegy. It's rotten tomatoes.
Anyway, yeah, so that happened like 5 or 6 more times. I don't remember how many, but it doesn't matter. Eventually, a different guy helped the robots, and I think Chicago was destroyed at one point. But regardless of this, Diaz took his knowledge. He became a federal deputy, just like Byron said. He had a number of military successes, including at Puebla, the thing we celebrate Cinco de Mayo for. He, along with his wisecracking partner, Juan Mendez, then successfully took down 2 separate drug cartels and or terrorists in a historical record that I don't remember well, but I have thought about revisiting more than most of these other historical records.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Yeah, so I'm kind of interested in picking up that historical record again. Unfortunately, as he turned on Juarez, as he described, he eventually had his rebellion after the first election there, which he lost. And part of this rebellion was an attempt to get compensation from the Mexican government by seizing control of Alcatraz, which was part of Mexico before the Mexican-American War.
But not at this time. Also, because he was a wildly misinformed plan, I have to say.
But this plan was thwarted somehow. I'd have to look into the records to say how, but this is usually considered one of the better records from what I gather. But I don't think I've actually seen this record. But maybe I should.
It's been a long time since I've seen this one.
Yeah.
Losers are always whining about their best. Winners go home and promptly.
On his way back, for a while, I thought maybe he got on a plane full of convicts who tried to escape and wreak havoc in Las Vegas or something. Also Mexican before the Mexican-American War. But I then realized this was actually somebody else's historical record, and I just thought it was his historical record. So that didn't happen. That happened to somebody else. It's a different guy's historical record. Anyway, alongside becoming a dictator and eventually being ousted, along the way, he had a bunch of other adventures. He had an adventure with an ambulance. He had an adventure with Rock as a bodybuilder on a clone island. There was one in Benghazi for some fucking reason. Whatever 6 Underground means. I've never seen any of these records. Anyway, Porfirio was exiled to America after being ousted as dictator and died in romantic Pearl Harbor. And that is the end of his life.
Oh, man. I forgot 6 Underground was him.
Yeah, Diaz. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot Con Air wasn't.
Yeah, I truly thought it was.
Turned out, no, Simon West.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's okay. I mean,
Con Air is remarkably visually coherent, so it should.
If as far as I can remember, it's also remarkably sexually exploitative.
Con Air, kind of awesome film.
Yeah.
Con Air and The Rock.
Those 90s, there's a couple of 90s like generic actioners that are Air Force One I have sort of fond memories of,
Yep. That's also kind of a wild ass phase in Steve Buscemi's career, because it's not like what I would. It's not what I expect of him now. Like looking at his career now,
he was doing all this shit with the Coens at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, he also is he's a working actor who needs to get paid. By the way, SAG-AFTRA still on strike.
Barton Fink's not going to pay those bills.
Yeah, he has 3 lines in that movie. You know what I mean? He says his name is Chet 4 times, and that's basically all he does.
It's also they mentioned this on another podcast, The Flophouse, but Steve Buscemi's character in Con Air is a child murderer, and but he's also sort of the comic relief.
But he lets the child go. It's very strange. He meets that little girl, but he
I've got the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But she's
I
fine at
remember.
the end. He escapes. He doesn't harm that little girl, and he's just like out there. It's like, what's the deal with this?
Yeah.
He's doing his own thing. He doesn't give a fuck what John Malkovich is doing. He's just like, I'm going over here, man.
The movie does make you root for a prison escaped child murderer.
Just like I learned an important lesson about not murdering
but here's
children.
the thing. The difference between Steve Buscemi and Con Air and Freddy Kreuger is Steve Buscemi and Con Air would not do Rogan. So
No,
No, it
absolutely not.
that's how they make you like him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be on the Bechdel cast, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good get.
It's actually a very good show. Zach, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Listeners, before we move on to the judgment phase, just want to say thank you for being here, giving us your ears.
Yeah,
And-
thank you for being a friend.
Travel down the road, back again.
A pal and a confidant.
If you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, I think you'd see. Anyway, fighting my...
For legal reasons, we should clarify the revisionist will not give you a gift.
No, yeah. No purchase necessary to enter. I thank you for breaking the absolute stranglehold of my neuroses that would otherwise force me to finish saying the lyrics to a song as if it's a joke. But yeah, you can follow us on Instagram. Just search for Revisionist Podcast. And nowhere else now, because Twitter ceased being the even semi-enjoyable platform it was a couple years ago.
I have a Blue Sky that I have not posted anything on yet. So
there is technically a Mastodon. Good luck finding it. I can't, and I made it. So we'll see how that goes. Byron, did you want to plug anything, talk about anything, mention anything near and dear to your heart?
I on a hiatus from performing, but I might be on Jeopardy. Like I did the practice test,
Yes.
and then I have a callback audition, and then I did 2 like practice games. So now I'm in the contestant pool.
Yeah.
And they'll call and be like, you did something similar a while ago, right?
Yeah, I'm still in the contestant pool, I think, for another I have like 6 more months left before I can audition again.
What if they put us in the same episode?
Oh
my
man.
God. Brother versus brother.
It was like in the Zoom audition, it was 7 guys that looked like us.
Of course it was.
Well, I hope you get on, and I hope they ask you a question about Porfirio Diaz. And
Yeah.
I hope you get it wrong, because that would be very funny to me.
Oh man, that would come in handy. I hope so too. But yeah, that's all I really got to plug at the moment.
Cool. Zach, you co-host the Movie Trap podcast.
Yeah, we're also on sort of semi-hiatus because fucking life is life right now. But we're trying to occasionally release episodes. Next one is going to be on the Bruce Willis masterpiece, Hudson Hawk. So if you want to watch Hudson Hawk, we'll have a podcast episode about it eventually.
Yeah.
Probably for Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhardt, I would say. Is the main
That's
reason
fair.
to watch that movie.
Yeah. As for me, listeners, you can see this on Instagram, but friend of the show and friend of my life, Jen Colick, and I are running a bake sale this month to raise money to buy tents for unhoused people in the Denver area, because the Denver Police Department keeps taking them. And it gets very cold in Denver at night. And so we're trying to get as many tents as we can. We started taking orders for the bake sale a couple days ago. We're already up to like half a dozen tents. So yeah, if you want to either just make a donation or order some baked goods, you can find all of that on our Instagram page. And yeah, it would be greatly appreciated, and go a long way to literally keeping people alive. So yeah, that's what I will plug.
Continued livelihood of people.
Generally, here's the thing.
Let's keep people breathing.
It's good to keep people alive, even if they are Matt Gaetz in theory. Look,
Man, why you got to stake out the least defensible position here?
yeah, honestly. Here's the thing: break into Matt Gaetz' house and squat it.
Hey.
There we go. That's the thing. That's the thing to do. There are certain people I want to live long enough to see just absolutely ruined. That's where my heart truly lies. Speaking of, as of this recording, Henry Kissinger still alive and still respected.
By some.
Yeah.
I think it has waned.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the mainstream media treatment of his 100th birthday was very frustrating in a lot of ways. But anyway, judgment comes for us all, and it is coming hard and fast now for these beautiful, beautiful boys in front of me. I really enjoyed Zach's. There is something about the tone Zach struck where it is a mix of very well put together, but also very, at points, very tossed off and visibly like casual. That was very fun.
I decided to do a retrospective of Michael Bay's filmography, but I didn't want to watch any of the movies. And when I started to do it, I also realized I didn't want to read any of the Wikipedia articles about the movies.
This is the right approach.
So I just did what I kind of remembered.
Respect. But I think my big qualm is that we would be canonically bringing Michael Bay into this world, and there's still hope left that we and this would be very petty and spiteful, may put out an episode where we just...
To be fair, Michael Bay was not a character in my history.
That's true. That's true. His oeuvre. And you know what? Honestly, Byron also did a lot of fucking research for this one. This was a huge episode. So I'm going to cast my vote for the actual history. Listeners, if you want to vote, you can do that on social media. And, you know, come back in a couple weeks when we're going to be talking about them spooky scaries. And I say this every couple of weeks, maybe celebrating the death of Henry Kissinger.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Jen and I have been wanting to celebrate this for a long time. We bought a bottle of champagne for some reason, and then we just called it like our Kissinger death champagne. And this was so long ago that we ended up drinking it when Antonin Scalia died. So
wow.
That's
little did we know that it wouldn't be as happy of an occasion as we would hope.
I know. Yeah. That's the thing about champagne. It seems like it's for celebrations, but it still just gets you drunk. Like it could be used for mourning in many ways.
Yeah, I think people have figured out that alcohol is used for both celebrating and for bad times and just whenever you want it. I think in a lot of cases.
Oh man, I had half of a microdose gummy and I am a little loopy. So Byron, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Zach.
Yep. Zach, thank you as always.
Mm-hmm.
For everyone here at the Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn, and we'll see you when things start to get spooky.
Yeah, he was supposed to say have a good time, so have a good time.
Have a time.
Sorry. Have a good time. Get spooky.
Bye.
Let's get spooky. That's it. October 7th, 1996. Fox News Channel begins broadcasting with a 20-year plan to convince scared people to take a bunch of horse medicine. A few years late, but they did it. October 7th, 1996. Fox News Channel begins broadcasting, revolutionizing American media, a technically true statement that can't be fact-checked. One more. October 7th, 1763. King George III issues a proclamation closing indigenous land beyond the Allegheny Mountains to white settlement, leading George Washington to coin the phrase woke mind virus.
All right, I got just a few. October 7th, 1996, Fox News Channel begins broadcasting. Many feel a great disturbance, as if millions of boobers cry out in anger and are suddenly estranged from their children. October 7th, 2001, the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan begins, starting the longest war in American history. Lockheed Martin is currently workshopping a sequel and hoping to double the runtime.